We are live and open to public viewing. We'll go ahead and call the meeting to order at 10:04. Go ahead and do roll call.
Commissioners Brown?
Present.
Harris?
Present.
Herr?
Oh, I believe Commissioner Herr is muted.
Vice? Yes, we can hear you. Vice Chair Little?
Present.
Chairman Mercy?
Present.
We have a quorum with Commissioners Fuller and Medrano not in attendance.
Okay, great. Pledge of Allegiance. Commissioner Brown, would you like to lead us in the pledge?
I would. Let me try and get up to my prison here. There we go. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America. Yes.
Okay, let's go ahead and we don't have a full presentation, so we have the consent calendar.
Methamphetamine use is really a miserable failure on a number of fronts. Methamphetamine use is growing in our community. It's growing nationwide. The current prevalence for methamphetamine abuse is about 1/6 of 1% of the population, but it is rapidly growing. The number of deaths that are occurring as a result of methamphetamine use are rapidly growing. What turned out to be an experiment to decriminalize methamphetamine use, to have a more humane approach to the substance abuser and attempt to get them into treatment isn't working at all. I am an emergency room psychologist, and I see every day that I work 3, 4, sometimes more methamphetamine users. And incidentally, the usual gurney use in an emergency room, in our emergency room, is about 8 patients per 24-hour period. That is, our ER docs can see 8 patients using that one gurney in 24 hours. Methamphetamine users tie up that gurney for 24 hours, so it poses some potential dangers in the emergency room with crowding. If you have 6 amphetamine users, you're using up a significant portion of our ER beds. So that's one of the problems. And there are many, many others, including the fact that some of the methamphetamine users are aggressive or violent in the emergency room. So that's that's the dangers to society. The danger to the methamphetamine user, I will go in some detail here. But I want to say that one of the reasons that methamphetamine is on the rise is because it's so readily available and it is so cheap. One hit of methamphetamine costs less than a pack of cigarettes. A pack of cigarettes is about $8 a day. A hit of meth is $5. So you can purchase 24-hour use of methamphetamine by collecting aluminum cans or panhandling at the freeway exits on Avenue K and 15th Street West, or numerous other exits of the freeway in our town. It's so readily available. It's so immediately gratifying to the user. It hits these pleasure centers of the brain. It steps up the metabolic rate of the brain, steps up the physiological metabolism. And the user feels like Superman. Their mental processing speed is far greater than ours is right now. At least I'll speak for myself. The methamphetamine user, one of the tests, the field tests that deputies will use is they'll say, okay, close your eyes and tell me when 30 seconds is up. And in about 10 to 15 seconds, I'll say, now, because their sense of time is distorted. They feel grandiose. They feel larger than life. They have a chemically induced sense of well-being. This chemically induced sense of well-being is not matched in reality. They just feel good no matter what their life circumstances are. A lot of homeless people use meth regularly to obscure the deficit in their life and the emotions surrounding their life failures. But they also use methamphetamine to stay awake at night so that they're alert to predators surrounding them. And that's one of the reasons why homelessness and meth use walk hand in hand. But over a long term, this is very, very costly to us. And what we think is a humane approach to decriminalize methamphetamine, it turns out to be very inhumane. And let me tell you some of the reasons why. First of all, cardiovascular changes. It can cause, it does cause, pulmonary hypertension, vasoconstriction. Over time, atherosclerotic plaque builds up in the blood vessels. It leads to cardiac arrhythmias. Over long-term use, cardiomyopathy, acute cardiovasospasm in the end stages, and then myocardial infarction. Those costs to the user are horrendous. They're also costly medically because that person is totally disabled over time. The average length of time between addiction starting and death is 7 years. 7 years. And those last few years, they cost society for their medical bills a lot. In terms of the endocrine system, it affects the thyroid functioning, the parathyroid functioning, and our calcium release, which is how calcium builds up in our blood vessels. The parathyroid regulates calcium. And so you'll see the meth mouth, you'll see them not having any teeth. And then psychiatrically, you see, and neurologically, you see with longer term use, soft neurological disorders. I was just watching an interview of Elton John, and he has involuntary movement of his lips. Well, he's used a lot of meth over the years. I can't swear that that's what caused it, but Ray Charles could see it's a possibility. So in my mind, what we need to do is influence legislators, influence law enforcement, the policymakers to re-examine this issue of how humane it is to decriminalize methamphetamine. The truth of the matter is, I have not met one meth user in my life who had the capacity, the ability to voluntarily stop using methamphetamine. It ain't going to happen. It ain't going to happen. And they will do anything to get methamphetamine. They'll steal from their relatives and then they get kicked out of their house. Then they're homeless. Then but first they have to try out all their friends. And my parents and I had an argument. Can I stay here? Then they use up all their friends. And eventually the only people they can hang out with is other people who are homeless and meth users. So in our ED, I just randomly picked up one meth user and looked at his history of use in the ED. This was just last Friday. He had been in our ED for meth use 14 times in the last 3.5 months. And that is not an isolated incident. That is a regular problem with regular meth users. Meth use disorder, MUD, is defined as a patient will use methamphetamine 100 days in the last year. So every 3 days, it's time to light up or snort or shoot. And it's so costly, it is inhumane to that person to allow them access to methamphetamine. The only way to stop the methamphetamine use is to stop their access to methamphetamine. So most likely, the most effective treatment will be to keep a person from having any access through authority rather than influence. This humane treatment that we're trying is using influence, and it doesn't work. Methamphetamine users, we hand them a packet, or we even transfer them to Tarzana Treatment Center or one of the other treatment centers around here. Guess what? The ones that are handed the packets, they throw it in the trash on their way out. They're not interested voluntarily to stop using methamphetamine. So we have to use authority rather than influence. That means we're going to have to go back to arresting them. And you could set some criteria, for example, that if a person is caught using methamphetamine 3 times with, then they violated the controlled substance use, and they can go to jail and be forced into treatment. And the methodology is to be explored yet, but the first thing is to get people's attention to realize this is not working currently. I saw the deputy looking at the other deputy when I said you have to increase the use of you have to provide arrest. And the current mode is not to arrest them, but to 5150 them and put them in the ER. And I'm not saying this to shoot responsibility back to the deputies. It's a society responsibility, and we need to look at what will work, because this is not working. And it ties up a deputy's time. I mean, the MET team sometimes sits in our ED for hours until the patient could be processed and medically cleared for psychiatric evaluations, which is when I see them. So I'm interested in everyone's perspective. I'm merely positing the idea that this is not working. It's a miserable failure, and it is inhumane to the meth addict and will lead to more and more medical problems and death. And thank you for hearing me. Yeah.
Well, thank you. So if, and anyone else who has familiarity with how the system is functioning right now can jump in on Mr. Sherwood or one of the deputies, because I know we have a drug court that's been successful with those who get enrolled in it. But if they're going to the hospital, they're not then entering that drug court system and rehabilitation. Is that correct?
That is correct.
Okay. So for either the deputies or Mr. Sherwood, what has to happen for someone to be eligible for the drug court? If they're, I mean, so did they have to be actually then formally charged with a crime in order to be eligible to get into that in the diversion?
Yes. So what I mean, I would, as I've talked about this, our court we have out here before, I would encourage anybody that wants to come by and sit in for a couple hours one morning to shoot me an email or give me a call, and I can make the arrangements so you can sit in and see what's going on. The one thing I would say, though, is that we are not able to get anybody into our drug court until they're looking at a substantial prison sentence, because the motivation for them to go into drug treatment, particularly in a court like A16, which is extensive and starts with 8 weeks minimum in custody in the START program in the LA County Jail, if they're going to get probation and credit time served and go to Tarzana Treatment Center to cooperate in a drug program, that's what they're going to do. And as the doctor pointed out, I have not seen that work in 25 years as a prosecutor. I see the drug program that we have in A16, I think, works as effectively as any of these programs can work. And I would say maybe 25% of the time, for all of the reasons that were discussed earlier. It's a very, very difficult habit to break, and it's often coupled with mental health issues. And so our program in A16, I would love for anybody to come by and take a look, because I think it is, as even 25% is given the number of people. And I would say, just to guess, 75% of the people that we encounter have a drug problem, predominantly methamphetamine, or mental health problem, or some combination thereof. I mean, everybody's stealing cars to pay for their drug habit. Everybody's getting into fights with the deputies because they're under the influence. Everybody's breaking into homes to steal stuff, to buy, it's the same story we've been hearing. I mentioned not too long ago the number of people that are wandering out into the streets and getting run over by cars because they're under the influence. And before, they would have been, arrested and at least spent some time in jail. Now they're not being arrested. They're not being prosecuted. They're wandering out in the streets, getting run over by cars. The other thing that's going on is we now have this alternatives to incarceration, which is supposed to be mental health. That's more of a diversionary program that's been expanded to include basically anything except serious and violent felonies. I try to look at those and make sure they're getting at least residential treatment, but the idea is to avoid any incarceration. That's a relatively new program. I'm cautiously optimistic. I mean, we'll see how that goes. But those are, a lot of people are getting diverted into that program. Antelope Valley is one of the it's one of the first courthouses to get that alternatives to incarceration program. I'm not sure how effective that's going to be, for the reasons that the doctor was talking about, which is, I'm not sure how much their access to the drugs is going to be limited. And although it's supposed to be a mental health, as the doctor pointed out, this methamphetamine induced, what was it? Methamphetamine, the MUD thing that he talked about is characterized as a mental health issue. And so people with drug problems are now essentially being included in mental health diversion. And so, so again, we'll see how that goes. But that's what I'm seeing here in my office.
I wanted to, am I still on here? Something happened.
Yes, we can hear you, Commissioner Brown.
Well, I can't. I can no longer see my screen, but in any case, there are a few things that I was going to mention. Dr. Gurian had mentioned one of the problems, and this is a tiny part of the overall picture. One of the problems in the emergency department is that if we're seeing, let's say, 6 to 8 patients per day per bed, so that's kind of a national average patient visits per bed per day. So if it's, let's say, 7, and you lock up one of those patients with a methamphetamine person sleeping off his bad behavior, that means 7 people are in the waiting room. So when you go to the waiting room and it's crowded and there are people waiting and you want to get back and be seen, remember that the reason that you're waiting in the waiting room is because some mental health patient is back, or not mental health, methamphetamine patient is sleeping it off in one of the gurneys that you could have been seen in. This is not only inconvenient, it's dangerous. What happens when people wait to be seen in the emergency department is that it's not always clear who's sick and who isn't, who's having a stroke, who's having a heart attack. And until there's a space to actually be able to evaluate a patient, those people remain at great risk. I think that what Dr. Gurian described, and you guys, particularly in law enforcement, are very familiar with this. This is a very special drug. In other words, we see people that are heroin addicts, and we used to see a lot more heroin addicts than we do meth addicts. But the heroin addicts, aside from stealing to get money to buy heroin, when they're on heroin, are relatively docile and sleepy and tend not to be a menace to society. Whereas meth produces this Superman, aggressive, antagonistic, whirlwind character that is incredibly menacing and incredibly dangerous to society. So it's not a mere mental health problem that if they talk to a psychologist for 15 minutes a week, they're gonna get over. It's a powerful addiction. I think all of us would agree. Nobody's going to stop doing this because we talk them into it. So you've got this incredibly addictive and powerful drug that creates dangerous people. And let's say more soft-hearted people than myself would say, well, they're not really criminals. They have a medical problem. What they need is medical attention. It's a mental health problem. We need to get them out of the criminal justice system and back into society where they can see a psychologist once a week. What they're really saying is that our goal with our program, they're not saying this, but this is in fact what's happening. If we treat methamphetamine addiction as a mental health problem, we are murdering the mental health people. In other words, the meth head people. In other words, if we know they're going to kill themselves within 7 years with methamphetamines and we don't do anything about it, what we're really saying in our warm-hearted way is to hell with them, let them die. Because by not putting them into the criminal justice system and incarcerating them in some fashion or other so that they can actually withdraw from this drug, they're doomed. Whenever we get into these discussions about bad behavior, we talk about the social cost, but one of the social costs that seems to be most underappreciated and most deadly is the fact that when we have bad people running around society, menacing everyone else, it creates an atmosphere of fear, of bars on the windows, of locked doors, of unwillingness to speak to other people. It destroys the social fabric of a community in a way that's hard to put a number to, but nonetheless, I think all of us would recognize as an important cost. Whether the criminal justice system is the pathway or some alternative incarceration, but I think Roger's right. Without incarceration, of some kind of incarceration where they 100% removed from this availability of methamphetamine, they cannot withdraw from this. And that's going to take a long time. One of the things that Dr. Gurian was talking about in terms of the actual effects on the brain itself, it takes a long time for a meth head to actually begin to recover function in such a way that he can then function effectively when he's not on methamphetamine. So I know that particularly now, maybe our legislature, and certainly we have a pro-crime DA, so it's probably very hard to find ways to help people who actually need to be taken out of society for a while. I'm not sure if there's a good solution, and I'd be very interested what the Sheriff's Department's thoughts on this are. So thank you.
Just so you guys are aware of that program, it does, if there's any type of background history where a violent crime has occurred, the meth addict or the drug addict will not qualify for the rehabilitation program that we were speaking of earlier. So that comes with after being fingerprinted and we find out that he or she has committed a violent crime, it will not qualify even though they were brought in for that day being under the influence of a controlled substance. So the alternative that we were talking about earlier was, well, getting them help inside of jail. The only way that's going to happen, because they're not filing for misdemeanor crimes for under the influence, is if they committed some type of violent crime that forced them to go to jail, at which point that other program would take over.
Thank you. I think this is really interesting because I think, you know, what could be happening is a lot of these programs that are existing with great intentions and having some success just aren't really getting to a lot of the people that need them. You know, we previously had set up some subcommittees. We haven't really moved forward on a lot of them because I know the city staff is moving forward on the hybrid law enforcement model, and so we've kind of held off on some of those other ideas we've had until that gets stood up. But this could be a great topic to work with them on as we get going. If you know, Dr. Brown, given your expertise, was wondering if, as from the commission, if you take lead on this and maybe work with Dr. Gearian and law enforcement and our public safety staff to see what we can come. I'm sure there's not an easy solution, but it's something that if we can do something at the city level to make it better, you know, we should certainly look into it.
I'm happy to do that. I was going to actually, Vanessa, are you there?
Yes, I'm sorry, I'm here. Yes.
You know, also see whether Vanessa, whether you have any thoughts about a legislative approach to this problem. Anything come to mind?
Well, absolutely. You know, as you know, Assemblyman Lackey is vice chair of public safety. So if you guys want to come up with something that you'd like to see him work on, we absolutely will consider. Then when they go back in January, they start working on their legislative package. So yes, I know that this is something that's very close to his heart.
Good, thank you.
Just to chime in, even in terms of local policy, there have been times when I think the sheriff's hands are tied. When a patient shows up in the ED and they're violent, they're aggressive to staff, they assault people, and the sheriffs have been unable to arrest them. They say it's not going to go anywhere, and he still needs treatment before we can book him, and so on. And this happened a number of times where we've seen someone violent in the ED. I was attacked last Friday. We don't see any response. Then that leads to demoralization for the ER staff, and I think that the deputies feel demoralized about it. Sometimes I've had deputies say to me, "I really wish I could do something, but it's not going to. If I arrest this guy, he's just going to get cut loose," and that's happened a number of times. And that's kind of policy, I think. Correct me if I'm wrong, but I think. That may be the pathway to get the person into forced treatment. I'm looking for any pathway to get a person into forced treatment because influence doesn't work. We've seen that. It has to be authority. You know, I mean, as a psychologist, I can influence somebody, hopefully, with if what I say makes sense, hopefully they'll do something about it. I can make all the sense in the world to a meth head, but it doesn't do anything. All they think about predominantly is how am I going to get my next fix, and they care about that more than their next meal. So the lack of teeth happens because of lack of nutrition as well as the disrupting parathyroid functioning, but that's their priority. And when they don't get what they want, they have the frustration tolerance of a 2-year-old, and they act out. And when they're an adult with the frustration tolerance of a 2-year-old, it can get dangerous, and sometimes does. So, and I like the idea of looking at local policy with the sheriffs, and then I like the idea of influencing, getting a hold of legislation and saying, hey, do be aware that we have well-meaning intent to be more humane and not arrest people with a medical problem, but let them know that we're killing people with our kindness, literally.
I got a question I'd like to direct at Officer Green and everyone else in law enforcement, as well as you, Mr. Sherwood. I would like to get an understanding of what is the criminal structure of methamphetamine. In other words, if someone is caught with methamphetamine, what can be done, or what law is broken, and what is the normal process at this point?
Mr. Sherwood probably would be able to answer that better, because we do cite, and once we cite, it will go to the DA's office, and then that will be determined at that point. Mr. Sherwood, would you like to comment on that?
Sure. So our office policy right now is not to file any possession of controlled substances. So methamphetamine, cocaine, heroin, we do not file those if they are misdemeanors. So if it is a straight possession and that's all they have are drugs or drug paraphernalia, our office policy is not to file those cases. In order for there to be a filing, the possession of the drugs has to be a felony. And the way that sort of criminal conduct would rise to the level of felony is if it's possessed for sale. So we would need sufficient evidence to charge possession for sale. Obviously, that requires a lot more work on the part of the sheriff's department. We have a lot of small-time users who sell a little bit to support their habit. It's sometimes difficult for us to get convictions of possession for sales unless they have a substantial quantity and some other indicia, whether it's a large amount of cash, text messages on their cell phones, a large quantity of drugs. Then if it's possessed for sale, then we can prosecute that case as a felony and address it accordingly. The other way that I'm actually seeing a lot recently are the possession of drugs with a firearm. So it doesn't have to be possessed for sale. It could be a small amount of drugs, but if they've also got a firearm, and I see a lot of those cases, then it can be prosecuted as a felony, and we can handle that in the criminal justice system if that. But that's pretty much it. I mean, we have a lot of unrelated drug crimes where methamphetamine is clearly a motivating factor, and we do handle those. But like Deputy Green said, generally the current offense is violent, or they have violence in their past, and it's such that they're facing a substantial amount of prison time, and that's what gets them into the criminal justice system. The only thing I did want to add, just if I could go off topic for just a second, one of the issues that I see is you're going to have, I think, a problem early on in the criminal's career if they just have drug possession crimes. Convincing anybody that jail is the alternative. And what we really lack, and from what I see, are locked treatment facilities, right? And we don't need like a jail facility, but we need a fence around the residential treatment, and we need to limit their ability to just leave. So we have lots of residential treatment, but there are no locked, there's maybe 1 or 2 locked facilities in the entire county of Los Angeles. And I think if there would be some way of creating more locked facilities, I think you'd find the defense and the defendants, frankly, a lot more willing to go into treatment. I don't know what the success there would be, but when jail is the option, that the defense doesn't want to go along with that. Sometimes the judges don't want to go along with that. Even sometimes, our office doesn't want to go along with that. If you could find a way to create some locked residential treatment facilities, limiting their ability to get access to methamphetamine, I don't know what that would be. I think that would be a step in the right direction.
Yes, inpatient services where it's on lockdown at all times. Tarzana Treatment Center has inpatient services, but it's limited to how many people are they, how many beds they have, where they cannot leave the premise. So forced help is pretty much what it comes down to, which I agree with Dr. Jirian. Based off of my history, my father has done meth since I was born, and inpatient services have corrected the problem temporarily. And after that, it's more of a decision-making skill, whether you want to take shortcuts, and shortcuts lead you back to relapse. So because he was locked down at a facility, they were able to get him off of the drug. But at the same time, the follow-up on decision-making skills have to be addressed so he doesn't relapse. So the inpatient services where you're locked down force you to get off the drug, and then the maintenance that comes after that is pretty much all decision making and how to operate as a normal human being.
Relative to that decision-making process, and pivotal to this whole discussion, is the fact that the brain is changed with chronic methamphetamine use. So the capacity to have rational decisions is mitigated. It's impaired. And the only thing, you have to give the brain time to heal and to readjust so that the frontal cortex, the decision-making process of the brain, is healed. And I appreciate you bringing up that example, Deputy. That's excellent. And that's been my experience with meth users. One of my dear friends who's a physician, he had a son and he had a stepson. Both were addicted to methamphetamine. And the one son that has beat meth for over 2 years now, he said, the only thing that stopped me was I was incarcerated and I didn't have any access to meth. And he says, that's the only way that I got out of this. And then that was a year. And people who've been incarcerated for 6 months are exponentially more prone to go back because their brain hasn't healed. Simple as that.
Dr. Guerin, can I throw my 2 cents in on that?
Well, it's 3 cents due to inflation, Captain.
My bad. I got a nickel here somewhere. My view of how we ended up in this situation has more to do with and Mr. Sherwood is busting his hump over there trying to help us. And the fault of this doesn't lie on the district attorney's office. This is a legislative issue. The legislature was trying to correct things that spun out of control in other areas, not necessarily drug-related activities, but the state of which our corrections system was in at the time, the lawsuits that were depleting state resources because of our corrections issues. It was the laws that were updated and changed, and the movement of moving narcotics possession into the misdemeanor categories as opposed to felonies was an attempt to reduce the number of people in custody. Those things were actions taken by the legislature to solve problems. But now a legislative solution needs to be put in place to make a long-term solution. And it is more likely going to have to be incarceration, but a different type of incarceration, an incarceration like you were suggesting, that is a welfare incarceration where the person receives treatment and is allowed to heal, as opposed to just being in with other criminals that, they would tend to have other habits because it's an addictive habit. They would pick up other addictive habits and come out worse than they went in. That's my whole nickel's worth.
Well, thank you. In the interest of time, as I know we still have a lot of business before the commission, I just want to open up. Does anybody have any last thoughts on this before we move on to our next agenda item?
Well, I thought the captain's comments and Mr. Sherwood's comments are right on the point. That's why I originally previously brought up Vanessa. I think it's pie in the sky, but I think if we were going to focus our energy somewhere, it might be to try and create an alternative pathway that would enable a system that would, in a sense, what Mr. Sherwood was talking about, an incarceration recovery center. And out of the criminal system, but keep it. We've got to get these guys off the street if we want to do something about it.
Yeah, and unfortunately, the makeup of the legislature right now, I think makes that very difficult. However, it is certainly something we can pursue, but I think I'd also like to look at what we can do locally. If there's anything, because as we've seen, when it comes to criminal justice, at the state or county level, there just isn't the political will among the majority, despite the best efforts of our representatives. But with that, what I'd like to do, though, is kind of add this to our list of subcommittees, again, with an eye towards really getting going on this. If we could do some research between now and the end of the year, not just on this topic, but some of those others that we've talked about, now that we've started to move a little bit more forward along towards the hybrid model, so that we can do some research and try to come up with some policies we can bring back after the first of the year on all of these topics. We voted to create those in the past, so what I would open it up and see if this is discussion and possible action, so a motion is in order if somebody would like to make that motion to create a subcommittee.
Well, I'd be happy to,
I'm sorry.
Go ahead.
I thought we like you said earlier, Chairman, is that we've talked about these subcommittees, and I know with COVID and everything else and the lack of trying to get things going and the city keeping up with the strains that they're facing. We have some subcommittees that we've agreed upon that we need to move forward on, and I'll be more than happy to serve on anything and everything. Dr. Brown is obviously the likely candidate. Anything that we can do to help a situation like this. I mean, it seems to me, Mr. Sherwood, the strain that they're dealing with, and I've heard the stories and how sometimes his hands are tied, the sheriff's department, on some of the information that we heard from our captain on what's happening with the pandemic and everything else, and what they're faced with deputies and an incredible job that they continue to do. There's a lot of this stuff that it seems like we just don't have the facilities and we don't have the funding, and we all have to sit down and create and talk about how do we fix this thing, and that's including, like Vanessa said, and moving forward. What are the action plans, and along with everything else that the city has faced in the sheriff's department and the DA? It's incredible the problems that were faced here, but yet this city has always been resilient on making things happen. And Dr. Brown and Dr. Gunn are experts at what's been taking place. I mean, they'd be the ones that would be more than face and move something forward on this. I would be more than happy to sit in, and if anything I can do.
Okay. Appreciate that. Thank you. So is that does that include a motion?
It includes a motion.
Okay.
A long-winded one, Drew.
Great, thank you. So we have a motion to create a subcommittee on this topic. Is there a second?
Second.
We have a second by Commissioner Brown. Any further discussion? All in favor, let's do a roll call vote since we're on Zoom. I think that's easier for staff and the public.
Commissioners Brown,
Aye.
Bye-bye.
Harris,
Yes.
Herr,
Yes.
Vice Chair Little,
Yes.
Chairman Mercy.
Yes,
It passes unanimously.
thank you very much. Okay, with that, we're heading into our reports. And I do want to thank Dr. Green. You know, I neglected to mention in his introduction, prior to his medical career, he was a police officer as well. So he has a very unique perspective on this, and I would invite him to continue to be involved with our subcommittee as we keep pursuing this, because he has that expertise on both the law enforcement side and the medical side. So with that, we'll move into our reports. I do understand that Mrs. Wilk from Assemblyman Lackey's office has a commitment at 11:30, so I'd like to take it out of order and allow her to go ahead and give her legislative report.
Thank you. Thanks so much. Good morning, commissioners. It's great to see you all again. I'm excited to see what this committee is gonna come up with, what your subcommittee will come up with. And I know the Assemblyman would love to meet with you and hear your ideas. And if there's things that he can do up in Sacramento, I know he would be more than happy to. I also want to introduce you. You see Pam Balch over there, Pam Wave. I will be retiring the end of December, and Pam will be, yes, thank you. Pam will be our new district director, so she will be joining you all in your meetings, and she's great. And I know whatever you need, Pam is more than capable and willing to help you with. But let me tell you a little bit about what's been going on with the Assemblyman. The Sacramento Capitol staff was recently briefed on racial disparities in law enforcement stops by the Public Policy Institute of California. The Institute analyzed data for almost 4 million stops in California's 15 largest law enforcement agencies in 2019, examining the extent to which people of color experience searches, enforcement, intrusiveness, and use of force differently from white people. I'm going to give you a couple of their findings, and then if you'd like more, I can send you the website to find out more. These were some. Black Californians are more than twice as likely to be searched as white Californians at about 20% versus 8% of all stops. Searches of Black civilians are somewhat less likely to yield contraband and evidence than searches of white civilians. And overall searches yielded contrabands or evidence in about 1/5 of all searches. Also, Black individuals are almost twice as likely to be booked into jail as white individuals. Those are a few, and I will be happy to share more the website with you all if you want more of that information. So this past legislative session, Assemblyman Lackey successfully sent 2 bills to the governor's desk. He had a $4 million budget request included in the state's budget, and he had an audit request approved by the Joint Legislative Audit Committee pertaining to criminal justice, AB 1305. It clears the way for U.S. Drug Enforcement Administration. They approved cannabis researchers to cultivate their own cannabis for research purposes. This first in the nation bill is a monumental win for California and the country, as the need for understanding the health and safety impact of the plant increases. This bill was signed by the governor on August 31st, 2021. Another win for the Assemblyman includes having his budget priority of $4 million to address the state sexual assault forensic evidence kit backlog, and having his request to audit the state's child abuse central index database for noncompliance. That was also approved. So there's some criminal justice items that he had great success with. So we're really proud of him. They are, as you know, out of session. They'll go back in January. So we've been trying to do things as COVID restriction allows in the district. Yesterday, we had a great women's mental health summit at AVPH. And one of the field reps on our staff she's Hispanic, and she had shared with the assemblyman that Hispanic women, when they are depressed or have mental health issues, they're not likely to go get help because there's a stigma involved. And with that, the assemblyman said, let's definitely get some help out there. And we put together a summit with Senator Wilk's office with speakers and resource tables, and it was a great success, and we plan on doing it again next year. So we're really excited about that. Still no date for a community coffee because we're waiting to see what the state will allow us to do, but we've had some roundtables, and the assemblyman is meeting and going places as much as he can. So it's great to see all you guys. Drew, thank you for letting me go earlier. I do have a luncheon, but I'll hang on till about 11:30. But any questions? No, and I know the assemblyman agrees with you all 100%. As you know, his background is with the CHP, and what he sees happening, with statewide with these laws that are allowing not just drugs, but just, criminality. I know I get frustrated when I go to Walmart and my makeup is behind locked doors because, people can just come in and take it and there'll be no prosecution. So I know that he gets he shares your frustration and would love to work with you when you put together your subcommittee to see what we can do on a legislative level.
Well, thank you so much, and congratulations and best wishes in your retirement. Certainly well earned. You've worked so hard for this valley, for the assemblyman, for Senator Runner before that, and so just want to thank you and wish you the best. And
thank you.
Look forward to working with you in your new capacity.
Thank you.
Congratulations, Vanessa.
Thank you.
Mm-hmm. Okay, next up we have the LA County Sheriff's Department. Deputy Green.
Hi guys, I'm gonna make this quick because I guess we're behind like 3 months. So I just want to introduce you to my new supervisor, Sergeant Lee Shriver. He will be replacing Sergeant Marion and Teresa Dawson for community relations. For those of you who don't know who I am, my name is Lawrence Green. I am your community relations deputy for Lancaster Sheriff Station. My primary responsibilities are to interact with the community and provide feedback in a non-emergent manner. So if you guys have any questions or would like my email, I can put it in the text box during the Zoom. Ms. Stenbach, did you want to do the presentation digitally on the screen so everybody can see it, or do you want me to read it off on paper?
Yes, I can present it.
Okay, I'm gonna follow your lead because I don't want to go too fast or too slow. So I'll just say next page as I read off the information.
That works.
Okay. I'm willing to start with whatever you want to put up.
Just a moment.
No worries. While we're waiting, it's going to be July's report, August report, and September's report. However, I'm not going to do it how I normally do and do word for word and things of that nature. I'm going to go over it fairly quickly for respective time. So forgive me. If you guys have any questions, please cut me off because I do talk a lot and I need to know when to stop. So just let me know if you guys have any questions. We're going to start with August's Crime Commission report for 2021. Go ahead and go to the next slide. All right, all of our crime prevention techniques are addressed and given out via social media. All the information is shared through Facebook Live and Zoom meetings. We do town halls and workshops as well to dish out this information. We're going to start with our burglaries for the month of August. Back in July, it was 51. The burglaries have gone up for a total of 73. We got 30 residential. We're going to be up 5 from July, which was 25 back in July. Your commercial burgs are at 43. They're going to be up a lot as well from 26 in July. Next slide. Robberies, total robberies are at 29. They're going to be up from 25 and what was back in July. We had 16 armed robberies that, which is also up. We had 8 in July. Strong arm was 13, actually down from 17 in July. Our community engagement, we're continuing to do our coffee with the deputy at Crazy Autos, along with a few other new small business owner events that we'll be coming up with shortly. That will be the Crime Commission report for August. If there's any questions while we're loading up the next one, please let me know now. Oh, looks like we're going in reverse. This is July's stats. Ms. Stenback, did you want me? We already pretty much mentioned those ones, so we'll skip over to September. Perfect. All right, same process, how we dish out our social media. So we'll go ahead and go on to the next slide. Okay, so now that we're going farther into the year, we're gonna be going down in burglary. So in September, we're gonna be at 58, down from 73 in August. For residential, we're at 22. It's a little bit up from August. We had 30, and we're also down to 43 from 43. Your robberies, your total robberies are also going to be down. We're at 17. We were up in August at 29. Our armed also down at 9. Back in August, it was 16. Our strong arm robberies were at 8, and we're also going to be down as well, so to 13. Obviously, the pictures from our coffee with the deputy. We're going to be expanding that to Starbucks and a few other like mom and pop shops, just so we can get a better engagement and a more diverse, area crowd as far as community engagement is concerned. And that will be coming up shortly. And Ms. Stenback, did you get the comp stats at all by any chance?
Yes, I do have those. I'll load those right now.
Okay, awesome. Awesome. Comp stats. This is July's comp stats. So I'll go over them really quick. Homicides over a period of a year. Sorry, give me a second here. It's going to be hard for me to, it's blocking me. Homicides over a period are still averaging around 2 for the month of July. We're going to be averaging around 5 rapes for the, or averaging 7, but we're currently at 5 for the month of July for rapes. Robberies, we're averaging 20, just a little under 25 though for a more accurate number. Aggravated assaults, we're going to be averaging 72, but for a better accurate number, we're a little above 80. Domestic violence related aggravated assaults over a period of a year are going to be averaging 9, but we're right around 10 for the month of July. Burglaries over a period of a year for the month of July, we're going to be averaging 45, for a more accurate number, around 52, give or take. Larceny and thefts are going to be down, averaging 96. We're going to be a more accurate number, 85. No worries, you're fine. And then grand theft vehicle has gone up a lot. It's going to be at averaging 77, but we're more around 102, give or take. Arsons over a period of a year leveled out. We're still averaging around 5. More accurate number will be 4. And these are our hot spots for the month of July. And in the areas of Avenue J, 1122 RD, so right by the station, Lancaster Boulevard, and just south of Lancaster Boulevard. So we're going to see the changes right now. When Ms. Denback brings up the next one, then you'll see how the crime tends to move and never stays in one place. So bear with us here. All right, month of August, homicides averaging 2, so it still stayed the same. We're only at 1. Rapes will be averaging 7. More accurate number will be 6. So let's put this over here so I can get better. There we go. Robberies over a period of a year have gone up. So for the month of August, we're going to be averaging 21, but we're more around just under about 29. Aggravated assaults averaging 71. More accurate number would be around 70. Domestic violence related aggravated assaults over a period of a year, averaging 9. We're going to be around 11. Burglaries have gone up in the month of August, averaging 46. We're more around 70, a little under 75. Larceny and thefts averaging 95. More accurate number will be just under 95. Grand theft vehicles over a period of a year, looks like they did some major adjustments, so now it has gone down. We were averaging 79. We're around a little under 90. Arsons over a period of a year, we're averaging 5, and it's leveled out. And then, as you can see, the hot spots have changed. We have some on Avenue I and about 10th Street West in that business district for a dark red. And it looks like around 10th Street East and Avenue J, little dark red spots over there. So you can see how it has maneuvered or changed on this hotspot. And this hotspot is about 2 months old. We're going to switch over to September's, and then you're going to see another change. And then that will be probably the most accurate representation, even though we're still about a month and a half behind. All right, comp stats of September. All right, we're going to be averaging 3 for the homicides for the month of September. Rapes obviously have gone way down, averaging 6, but we're more like at 3. Robberies have gone down as well, averaging 21. More accurate number will be around 15. Aggravated assaults, 71 average, a little up, just under 80. Domestic violence related aggravated assaults over a period of a year have gone up. We were averaging 10, but the more accurate number is probably a little over 14. Burglaries averaging 47. More accurate number will be a little under 60. Larceny and thefts are kind of leveling out, averaging 97. Grand theft vehicle has gone down again, averaging 81. More accurate number is a little above 70. Arsons have gone down as well, leveling out at 4. Okay, now the crime hotspots have changed once again. You're going to be at about Sierra Highway, just south of J, for one major hotspot. The 10th East is still there, but not as prevalent. And then you have one just south of K, right off of 10th Street West, are the ones I'm kind of looking at over here is focused on. These are all business districts as well. Our business before breakfast, we've been obtaining information from the small business owners to give them insight on proactive policing and strategies on how to make sure that they keep their business safe by utilizing their cameras and maximizing lighting in the area of their business, whether it be the parking lot or in the rear. Do we have any questions as far as this commission report, the comp stats? Nope. Okay, Leap's presentation. Do you happen to have that, Ms. Stenbeck?
Yes, just a moment.
Okay. The lease presentation, I'm not reading word for word for the sake of time, but I will give you the overall results of leaps and their progression of how they've been doing. All right, on the right-hand side of the leaves presentation, you're gonna see a set of green squares. Each green square represents what they contributed to. So on the right, we in the month of July, they contributed to 27 arrests, 27 traffic stops, 12 burglaries and robberies. Flights and assaults, they assisted with 29. Persons with a gun, they helped lead to 3 arrests with persons with a gun. And if you want to scroll in a little bit, suspicious circumstances, I can't see that number, so I'll have to go to my paper version.
15.
Oh, it's 15? Okay, thank you. 15. On the next page, you have, so of those, all those stats, 26 involved people on that second page. 21% involved arrests and detentions, 10% involved property, 18% involved vehicles, and 25% of that was observations. Let's go on to the August report. All right, in August, 8 arrests, 14 traffic stops, 6 burglaries is once again on the right-hand side. Flights and assaults is 18, and persons with a gun, 1. As far as that last one, what do we have, Ms. Stenbeck?
16.
Okay, awesome. Oh, I think I know why it's doing that. It's because of my bar at the bottom. 41% involved people, 11% involved in arrests and detentions, 8% property, 22% vehicles, and 18% observations. This is also working off of, I think it's like 3 days out of the week that we have 110 William 1. Yeah, so this is working on a fraction of the time that we normally have them. So it's still working and it's still contributing and leading to arrests. So once again, we are thankful for having this, this program. All right, for the most accurate, most up-to-date, we have September. So for the month of September, 16 arrests, 18 traffic stops, 8 burglaries, 14 fights and assaults, 3 persons with a gun. And that last one, Ms. Stenbeck? 23. 23 suspicious circumstances. Of those, we're going to have 30% involving people, 18% involving arrests and detentions, 13% involving property, 16% involving vehicles, and 23% regarding observations. Do we have any questions as far as the leaps reports are concerned? Once again, I apologize for speeding through that, guys, but I know that we were behind and I want to make sure that we have time to finish everybody else's reports.
Appreciate it, sir. Thank you.
Thank you.
Any questions for Deputy Green before we move to probation? Okay, let's see. Let's go to LA County Probation. Oh, I think you're there. You are. Oh wait, no, I think you're still muted.
Yeah, there we go. All right, can you hear me now?
Yes.
Good. Hope everyone's safe. Just a few things for us. I'll try to go through it as quickly as I can, also, and share what we have going on. We reopened our office for the AB 109 area office here in Lancaster, Run Division. That's where I'm housed at, and the deputies that I supervise. We opened up October 1st. Full opening with the fact that, however, we're doing things by appointment only and walk-ins. So the probation officers that are supervising people are scheduling to come in, walk in. We have all the precautions up in the office, stuff like that. So, you know, the little plexiglass at every desk, separation and things of that nature. We're making 100% field contacts. We're going out there as often as we can. Just today, I think I have 6 or 8 deputies out in the field making contacts throughout the Antelope Valley. Door knocks. We're still not crossing thresholds going to the house that we feel there's a need to, or we have suspicion or to believe there's illegal activities or something going on that needs extra attention, and we'll send out our special enforcement operation team to go out there and do the door knock and do the complete search. So, so one of the things that we're being really proactive about is we're also submitting complex cases that we have. So we have someone that has multiple red flags, we feel needs special attention, needs to be searched, contacted more often, or more a little bit more in depth. We are sending out, we'll send a complex case form out saying that, we believe this person who's on probation needs X, Y, and Z. We need to take a closer look, and we submit them to the Bureau, and then they choose who we're going to go out and see. So we're trying to be proactive. Listening to the doctor earlier today, and thank you for what you do. A lot of things hit home about how we deal with our substance abusers. They pretty much had a pass for the last 2 years, all 18 months. And in doing so, we have started testing more often again, and we're using a new product. It's an on-the-spot oral, but again, even if they're testing positive, we're limited what we can do with them. We all share the same resources, Tarzana Treatment Center, and things of that nature. Very few people have private insurance. So, we're having to deal with how do we assist these folks in getting clean, sober, back on track in their life. It's a difficult task. And again, violations are just as difficult as arrest. A lot of it's the same situation. So we're trying to be more proactive. So we're using what we call the orderlies. If you can see this is the packet. And basically it's just a little tube that they do in the field. They swab the cheek and gum in between for a few minutes. It'll start to turn blue. You stick it in, you release it. If it gives you a positive, are we going to arrest somebody? No, probably not. If it becomes back, but it's going to give us an avenue to take in the direction of the supervision, maybe more context, maybe try to get them into treatment. And again, in agreement with everyone that spoke earlier, we're very minimal on what we can do with some of the lockdown facilities. I think Acton is still closed, if I'm not mistaken. We used to have a deputy stationed there just to assist, not so much with any physical interaction, but more from a probation point of view, how to kind of influence them to remain instead of just walk away and things of that nature. Some of the things that in the residential treatment, we just have a lot to do with how do we fix it? How do we try to make it better for everybody involved? Because for all the decision makers in the state and local legislations and things of that, they feel like they're nonviolent crimes. Unless you're a victim, you don't understand how violent that crime could be when they're trying to take from you, steal from you to support their habit. Only a true victim can really tell you that an abuser of narcotics is not really nonviolent. And that's what I've seen over my career. But we are doing much better now that we're reopened. I think we're being, once again, influential. Violations are up a little bit because we are holding people more accountable, because we're seeing them more. We can identify more of the needs in situations like that. So it seems that we're getting more cases going back to court for additional information. Our courts, AB 109, are downtown. They're not going to be up here at the local courts unless there's another charge or another case involved. Normally, once they go to AB 109 or post-release services, they're going to go down to the courts down in the LA area. We have 2 court rooms down there that deal with those cases. But field contacts are up. Our doors are open. Our testings are now being in effect. violations are a little up because, again, we're seeing some things that we weren't able to see while we were closed, and not having as much contact with them. With the cases that we supervise, we're stabilized with our caseloads, and we're still waiting once the department will approve our mobile unit that I spoke about the last time we met. We have it, we just haven't received it yet to use in this area. I'm anticipating in the near future, they're just not ready to release them to the outlying area offices until that decision has been made because of COVID. I believe that's the reason why we're being held up. Other than that, everything seems to be gaining some momentum and some type of normalcy as far as what we do, which is exciting for the deputies and things of that nature. So again, we're trying to do our part in keeping our community as safe as possible and interact with them. And again, all the comments that were made hits home in a lot of areas for probation, because we deal with those on an everyday basis. I would say we are treating mental health cases that are, we call them co-occurring because they have drug and mental health issues that go side by side. So it's become, it's always been challenging. And that's pretty much what we have for now.
Thank you.
You're welcome.
Thank you. But what's your take in terms of the subject we were talking about earlier with Dr. Gary? And if you were to isolate out those people that you'd have to deal with that have had trouble with methamphetamine, what's your observation? How would you describe that bandwidth of behavior?
Well, again, with us, because we meet with them, we try to establish a somewhat of a trusting relationship at some point. You can identify first who the ones that are serious about wanting to make change. Once you identify those first, your success rate will increase tremendously. Anytime you lock somebody in a cage or in a jail or something like that, their issue is they're going to fight their way out if they're not ready. They're like, if I treat my dog bad, he's gonna dig his way out of my yard. If I treat him good with love and stuff, you can leave the gate open and he'll never leave. And people are similar to that. And I think that's what we're trying to create. But in the meantime, we're still losing a lot of people and there's a lot of victims because of this abuse system of narcotics. I think the best way is a little bit of both. If we refer to it as incarceration instead of assistance, then we play the word game. And I think a lot of political things that go on are word games. We need to secure them in a place and then create the relationship and build on that. So it can't be a 3-month program. It has to be at least a year. There's a local person here that works with the youth. I think it's Los Angeles Children's Project. If you ever watch his little video, he didn't change his life until he was locked. The judge gave him a choice. You go to a year lockdown rehab or you go to jail. He took the 1 year, and the Los Angeles Children's Project, where those kids are learning trade stuff with Aaron, has been fantastic. And if you even Google the Los Angeles Children's Project, you'll see what a year in treatment will do for somebody. In lieu of custody. So we have to find a happy place, a medium place where you're not really in jail. We get you in, we get you detox, we get you cleaned up, and then we build that relationship as you go through it. And I think we'll have more success that way than interfering with the people with medical emergencies in our emergency rooms and stuff like that. All you gotta do is drive around Lancaster for 5 minutes and you're gonna see homeless people. I can guarantee you that if we ran over there and tested every single one of them, they'd be dirty, dysfunctional, struggling, all the above. And, we got to fix it one little piece at a time. And we have the means if we get someone to listen to us. We can't just put everything in a ball and say, okay, either you go to jail or you don't. We got to find a place where it's not really true jail but it's a secure place, so we can build with them on that. And I think then we'll start to chip away at the narcotic use in this area. Because I've had guys walk in here and say, you know, sending me to jail, it hasn't worked. So we asked them, okay, what do you think works? He goes, I just need to stay away from Little Rock. That was his trigger area. And I think if I go here, I could be okay. I said, okay, we're going to see you once every few days. You're going to walk in here. We're going to test you. We'll do an immediate test. And if you're clean and you do what you're supposed to do, and you know, it worked for him. He was ready. And he was being honest. Sending me back to jail isn't going to work. And I think that's proven that it's not going to work. But we got to find a place, whether it be a secure facility or more so, but we got to get people that make the decisions listen. That it doesn't have to be called jail. It has to be called, let's help these guys. Let's help these people, because I don't care what they call it. We just got to help fix it. But they need to be in a place where they can't leave, because most of them leave. They walk out. You know, we spend hours and man hours paperwork, getting them convinced to go there. I can tell you, we can say, hey, you're going to a secure facility. We're going to take you to Long Beach. We get halfway there. They say, hey, I'm walking in, and they'll walk right out as soon as you drive away. Happens a lot. Happens more often than them staying. So it is a tough business. But it's good to hear you guys speak about it, talk, and hopefully somebody will listen that makes those decisions. But we do need to have some secure.
And something needs to be taken into consideration is, what are the consequences if, you know, there has to be some type of consequence. If you come back several times and then test dirty, if there's no consequence behind your actions, then they're going to keep doing that over and over and over and over again. So there has to be some type of penalty or something to show that we're serious in trying to get this person help. And if you deliberately, you know, go back on your word, there has to be something done about that.
Yeah, and I agree. I grew up in an area of heroin addicts, and you know, the doctor Gurion had mentioned earlier, and it sounds something I would say to my friends and family. They can care less about you, me, or anything else. The only thing they care about is the next high. How am I going to get it? Who's going to make me happy? Who's going to help me get it? Blah, blah, blah. You know, what's important to me, you, and everybody else is not important to them at all. That next high, that next field, you know, we talk about chasing that dragon. That once you take that first high, it's the most greatest thing in the world, and they chase it for the rest of their life. We got to give them something better to chase.
Thank you.
Mr. Chairman.
Yes.
I agree with Deputy Green. I think that unless there's any consequences, they're going to continue doing what they do on a round path. But I commend you, Mr. Swoller, what you do and how you do it and everything you do. But it seems like at the end of the day, we still have no answers on what we need and what direction we have to go. I think that's where Dr. Brown, Dr. Gundon gets involved with some type of thing of pushing it forward. So thank you, sir, for all your comments. Thank you, sir.
Thank you.
Thank you. Okay, do we have any other questions for probation before we move to Highway Patrol? Okay.
Thank you, everyone. Have a safe Thanksgiving. Have a great Thanksgiving. Thank you so much.
Thank you, sir. You too. Okay, CHP.
Good morning, everyone. Captain Bernier couldn't be here, so I am Officer Michaud. I am the Public Information Officer for the Antelope Valley CHP area. He did send me over the October stats, so I will go through those for everyone. I'll try to make this as quick as possible for time. For the month of October, our crash picture is continually going up. We were at 203 crashes for the month of October, as compared to September at 184, August 163. So we are steadily on the increase for crashes. Of those, 4 resulted in fatal injuries, 12 resulted in major injuries, and 19 were DUI involved. All of those numbers are up from previous months. Our total fatal count right now, we are at 43 fatal crashes, resulting in 49 deaths so far for the year. And we have not even gone into the holiday season where we see a lot more crashes because of the commuting. For DUI arrests for the month of October, for misdemeanor DUIs, we are at 51 misdemeanor arrests and 3 felony DUI arrests. Our officers have recovered 7 stolen vehicles, one of which was occupied, which resulted in that felony arrest. There have been 4 drug arrests as compared to last month's 7. We've recovered 3 firearms this month compared to the one last month during arrests. Homeless contacts. For the month of October, there were 9 homeless contacts compared to 14 for the month of September. We are still currently working with Caltrans on homeless encampment removals. There was 1 in September, I believe we just had 1, but that is for the month of November. There were no removals for the month of October. Our staff is still monitoring those with Caltrans. There have been multiple speed enforcement details there for the month of October. We did do one. I don't know if anyone was aware, on the east side of the 138. We partnered with the Sheriff's Department and also Victorville CHP toward the county line in San Bernardino. We have multiple speed enforcement details planned. For the month of November, there will be a total of 3 that will be CHP only, and I believe we are working with the Antelope Valley Traffic Task Force, which is our Palmdale and Lancaster station, to do an enforcement detail on the off-highway vehicles that folks, I know we get a lot of phone calls, so I'm pretty sure the sheriff are getting a lot of phone calls about our off-roading vehicles in areas where they shouldn't be, especially surface streets. And also we will be doing a speed enforcement with the Sheriff's Department. Those dates have not been announced just yet. They have to be solidified with our commands. Let me see, what else did my captain have here for us? We're just continuing to work with the personnel. We are short-staffed as well, but as I said, our main concern right now is the crash picture. I mean, you can look at the scanner pages or just drive down the 14 freeway and see how many crashes we are experiencing here in the Antelope Valley, and that number is just going up and up. We don't really know where it's going to stop. Any questions about any of that?
Yeah, I mean, I guess, is there any study or idea? I mean, with the increase, I know, I mean, I kind of anecdotally just attribute it to people getting out and about more as COVID eases up and just being in a rush, or they got used to the less traffic on the road when people were staying at home more. But yeah, I mean, I appreciate what you're doing. Any idea, if you have any suggestions or things that we can look at to make things better here in the city, please feel free to bring that up.
Definitely. I know our captain does monitor all of any traffic complaints that we get. I know he's in constant contact with both Lancaster and Palmdale station commands as well, because I know it's not just, the CHP jurisdiction where we're having these issues. It's all over. Yeah. I mean, just this past weekend, I think the deputy, they took a couple fatals this weekend. And we also had a vehicle versus pedestrian fatal this weekend, Monday. And they're all over the place. We're trying to get our resources out there to slow folks down, get some awareness, just trying to get folks safe.
Yeah, I mean, I just, in my own driving, I've noticed several people just speeding around me or others, impatient with, the normal flow of traffic. But, well, thank you very much. Anybody have any questions for Officer Michaud before we move to the the district attorney update? Okay, thank you very much, Officer. Mr. Sherwood.
Morning, almost good afternoon now. I'll try to go quick as well. The biggest thing that happened in our office over the last few months is the DA is trying to centralize filing downtown. And our branch, Antelope Valley branch, was one of the first branches to be sort of a pilot program for that. So filing, I no longer supervise the filing for the Antelope Valley. That is done downtown, with the exception of domestic violence cases and sexual assault, child abuse cases. Those are still handled by the DAs here that I supervise. And gang cases that we vertically prosecute, which are going to be, for the most part, shootings and murders that are committed by gang members. Those are still be vertically prosecuted, and I'll still supervise those. So it's only been a month. I will see how it goes. They're trying to get some consistency in filings across the county. That's the idea behind it. So we'll see how that goes. I don't normally.
Is that due to, I don't know how much you could say, is that due to individual deputies may, not necessarily following the new DA's filing procedures on?
I wasn't consulted or asked, so I don't really know. I do know the DA that's handling it, and I've talked to her, and I think they certainly have the idea, and this is something that she's thought would be a good idea for quite some time. That is to try to create some consistency with the filing. So in other words, somebody that commits a crime in, Compton or Torrance or, Los Angeles, the idea is that those crimes and the way that they're charged should be the same way they're charged in Antelope Valley and Pomona and, San Fernando. So the thought is that if they centralize the filing, that they will try to get some consistency there. It's a big county. There's, I don't, I think it'll be difficult, but they're going to try, and I'm trying to support them as much as I can in terms of helping, because like I said, we're one of the first branches where it's being implemented. I think Van Nuys is next if they haven't started already. So, again, they're trying to get some consistency with filings across the county, and this is their effort to try to get that done. And I haven't, if I think it's impacting, or if there's an impact or something that I can discuss, I'm more than happy to talk about it. It's relatively new. It's only been a month, so.
Yeah, we'll definitely be curious to see how it affects, what filings have been and where they go. Obviously, as you know, our commissioner community has a concern about holding criminals accountable under the DA's policies. So,
okay.
That said, appreciate the work of the hardworking deputy district attorneys who are doing what they can in a tough situation.
Staffing, I don't talk about this ever, but I think it's important to let all of you know that that we are down about 9 allocated slots for DAs, so that's about 25%. I've asked for additional people. I know they're trying to hire more people, and hopefully we'll be on the list to get some additional staffing. But it is a problem. It is starting to be a problem, and as we get back to trying more cases now, and the courts being open to the extension that we were getting for about a year now has gone away. So dealing with a little bit of time crunch now with the dates to get these cases going. So I just wanted to mention that, just so you're all aware of it. The other thing that I've been working on the last 3 months is to try to get all of you some statistics that are more consistent with the statistics that the Sheriff's Department is providing. So hopefully it helps get a better picture of, the crimes that are being committed and then the cases that are being filed by our office. It's not going to be 100% correlation, obviously, because a crime may be committed in June, and for whatever reason, we may not file the case until July, if it might be a warrant or something like that. But I think it'll be a better idea for all of you in terms of crimes being committed versus the crimes being charged. So, for example, one of the numbers that was I believe Deputy Green threw out were the number of auto thefts, which they have an incident of 100. We only filed for the months of August, September, and October. We only filed 5 auto burglary cases. So that's maybe an indication that either cases are being rejected for whatever reason, or we're not catching as many of the auto burglary crimes that are occurring. I don't know if that's helpful for the sheriff's department, but I'm still a work in progress. So I'm looking at some of the numbers that are showing up. Say, for example, robberies. We filed 20 in August, 9 in September, and 20 in October. Firearms were also a high number of crimes that we filed, 22, 20, and 22 respectively. We had a lot of criminal threats, so that's basically threatening to kill someone or do them great bodily injury, 14, 9, and 14. I'm not going to go over all of the different crimes I have listed out here. I'm going to try to correlate with the sheriff's department's numbers so that you have some idea about, again, the number of crimes being committed versus.
Just to clarify, though, your numbers are Antelope Valley wide versus what the sheriffs are giving just the Lancaster service.
No, the numbers that I'm giving you are only for Lancaster.
Oh, okay.
I'm not giving you Palmdale. The only exception for that would be the CHP. I'm not sure if I can get only DUIs, because I do have DUIs, and they're only felonies, so I'm not giving you any misdemeanor numbers. Because for felony assaults, they'll be, we'll have assault with firearms, so assault with firearms, 565, those are all in Lancaster, assault with deadly weapons, felony assaults, and then felony DUIs. If I can get misdemeanor DUI numbers, if you want those, I'm not sure if I can break them down, Lancaster, Palmdale, versus outlying areas. I'll look into that. But anyway, so those are the numbers that I'm working on. I'm going to try to reduce them and maybe put them in some sort of visual form that will help you sort of get a take on what we're filing in relation to what that
would be great. I think that'd be very helpful.
Okay.
Thank you.
All right, and that's all I got. Unless anybody's got any other questions.
Mr. Sherwood, why are they moving the filings downtown? What's the rationale?
Again, what I've been told is that the idea is to try to get consistency in the filings. So, somebody that's charged with, possession for sale in, like I said, Compton, or I think the main things they're looking at are 10851. So they're really taking a hard look at crimes that are referred to as wobblers. So those are crimes that can be charged as felonies or misdemeanors. I think auto theft is one of them. The other one they're looking at are Estes robberies. I know those are two of the crimes that they're most concerned with, and that, when is an Estes robbery charged as a robbery, and when is it charged as an assault with a petty theft, and auto theft, when are those being charged as felonies, and when are those being charged as misdemeanors? I know those were two of the crimes that they're focused on. But again, what I'm being told is that that's being done to try to create some consistency across the county in the filings.
Thank you.
Okay.
Any other questions for Mr. Sherwood? Okay, well, thank you very much, sir. Moving on to the city attorney update. Let's see, do we have, I don't think we have our city attorney with this, so.
We do not. We have no discussion for this item today.
Oh, okay. Public safety update.
Same response. No discussion for this item today.
Okay. With that, we're on to public business from the floor. Do we have any speaker cards?
At this time, anyone wishing to comment on on non-agendized items, please press *9. I will announce the last 4 digits of your call-in number when it is your turn to speak. Please state your name and eliminate any background noise. Individual speakers are limited to 3 minutes each. State law prohibits the commission from taking action on items not listed on the agenda. Please press *9 at this time. We have no speakers.
Okay. Commissioner comments. I'll just go across with who I've got. Let's see. First up, Dr. Brown.
No additional comments. Good meeting. Thank you.
Okay, thank you. Vice Chair Little.
None, except for wishing everyone a happy holiday this month and safe. And thank you to the Sheriff's Department, Mr. Sherwood, for what you guys do to try to keep us safe. Mr. Sepulveda, thank you so much. Thankless jobs at times, but thank you so much for everything you guys do. Dr. Brown, you look good.
Commissioner Hurd.
I wanted to be thank him, but I had to get off mute to do it. Thank you.
Oh. Commissioner Hurd. Do you have any comments? You're on mute. You're on mute. Commissioner Hurd, you're on mute. Oh.
Okay, all right.
There we go.
I'm sorry. And can you hear me now? Okay. No special comment for me, but I have to apologize. Actually, I was so excited to make it to council chamber, and I noticed that I didn't pay real attention on all the email. So I'm just sitting outside and sitting in the car attending meeting.
Okay.
I just want to say thank you, everybody, for what you do, and happy Thanksgiving. All right, stay safe.
Okay, thank you, and thank you for that clarification. I want to make sure you're not driving unsafely with that.
Oh, no.
You're parked. Okay, good. Okay, with that, we have reached the end of our agenda. So if there's no agenda, we will stand adjourned. But thank you, everybody, for participating today. Appreciate it. Oh, was that Captain? Were you raising your hand to say something? Oh,
Saying bye.
Saying bye. Okay. Thank you very much.